Hello there dear yogis, and welcome to day one, so December 1st of our Advent calendar of yoga. So thank you so much already for all the support for this, and big hello to everybody watching today. So if anybody's not familiar with what we're going to be doing over the next 25 days in the lead up to Christmas and on Christmas Day itself, so I thought it would be a really nice thing to do. It's such a busy, overwhelming and stressful time of year for most of us. So I thought it would be nice to do this 25 days of free yoga. And it's just going to be very, very simple. So every day, probably about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes of a practice every day that you can use to bring yourself back to centre, bring yourself back to some kind of feeling of calm and of peace. So some days it's going to be meditation, some days it's going to be pranayama, so breathing practices. We were also going to look at some mudras, maybe some mantras. So you've hopefully got a whole toolkit then by the end of the Advent calendar that you can then use, obviously not just for this time of year, but then you can keep coming back and using any of these techniques. So today is the first day, so December 1st. So usually if we have an Advent calendar that we open, it's that day where you suddenly realise that it's December and that Christmas is approaching and that possibly we haven't done half as much of what we would have liked to have done by now, and I include myself in that as well. So it would be really nice, I thought, just to start with a simple breathing practice to get yourself back in the moment, try and deal with that sense of overwhelm. So a lot of what happens in the mind when we're stressed is just an over-exaggeration, so we start to catastrophize about things that haven't happened yet, particularly when things get busy and we have a lot to do. And actually it makes us less productive. So the more busy the mind is, the more that we start to feel this sense of overwhelm of how much we've got to do. And I'm sure you've had this experience yourself. We just stop. You just feel like you can't do anything, even though you know you've got so much to do. So mindfulness and breathing practices are really, really beneficial because they help you get your space back in your mind so that you can see clearly what you need to do. And then you can go on to do things like just set really clear to-do lists, practice just concentrating on one task at a time rather than starting loads and then getting really, really overwhelmed. So I thought it would be nice to start with a practice, it's a pranayama practice called Nadi Shodhana, and it's alternate nostril breathing. So it's a fantastic way to bring your mind back into a sense of calm and a sense of equanimity in the mind. So in terms of energetics, it actually balances the two nadis within the body that sit next to the central channel. So we have a nadi, a channel that runs through the left nostril, and it's the left channel, and then we have one that goes through the right nostril, which is the right channel, and they both sit next to our central channel, which is where all of our chakras are. So quite often these channels get blocked for lots of different reasons, and sometimes if you actually just breathe, sit and breathe through your nose for a few breaths, you can actually feel that you're getting breath, more breath in one nostril than the other. And that usually shows us that there's a little bit of an imbalance there energetically. So in this practice we use our fingers. So if you're right-handed, it would be your ring finger and your thumb. If you're left-handed, you're going to use the same fingers but for different nostrils. Okay. So we close off a nostril at a time and we try and focus the breath in one nostril, close off the nostril and then breathe out the other. So I would say it's a bit tricky if this time of year you've got a cold or you're congested. So I know it sounds a bit gross, but go and if you have had a cold or you're congested, go and have a good blow of your nose first so that you're not sitting here just sniffling for the whole practice. Okay. So the next thing to do really to get yourself set up is find a way that you can sit comfortably. So I'm sat cross-legged. I do find that comfortable for me, but I am aware that it isn't for most people. So you can do this in a chair. Just make sure that you're not slouching. So don't go and choose your comfiest armchair because you'll probably just fall asleep, particularly if you're nice and warm. So I'm sitting up on a yoga block. Just to get that tilt in the pelvis so the spine can be really nice and long, but you can use a yoga bolster or just a normal cushion or a bed pillow. Okay, so I'd recommend if you are sitting in a chair, try and find a nice straight back chair and sit on that to do this practice. So if you're using your right hand, You're going to use your thumb to close off your right nostril and your ring finger to close off your left. Okay, if you're left-handed, your thumb is going to close off your left and your ring finger is going to close off your right. Okay, the other hand that you're not using, I like to bring into chin mudra for concentration. So index finger and thumb press together and you rest that hand onto that leg, and it will just help you focus even more on the practice. Okay, so to begin with, before we start that technique, I just want you to take a moment to find that good posture. So sitting up as tall as you can through the spine, drawing those shoulders down the back and then drawing your chin down towards your chest. And I just want you to close your eyes and just focus on your breath just normally for a few rounds of breathing. And just checking in with how you're feeling today, monitoring where your stress levels are at. And just noticing how busy the mind is. And what I like to do before I do any meditation is just to take a few breaths in through the nose and then some big sighs out the mouth. And as you do that, really let your jaw relax. And you notice immediately as you do this how much we've actually been clenching the jaw. You can also relax the forehead, so letting go of any frowns that we've been accumulating over the last few weeks. And then use the out breath as well to really drop those shoulders down. So again, you start to become aware of how much we're actually holding on and gripping through the body. Okay, so now we're ready to start our Nadi Shodhana practice. So whichever hand you're not using, bringing it into that chin mudra, so index finger and thumb together, palm facing up. And then we're going to bring index finger and middle finger and place them at the space between the eyebrows and then slightly up, so middle of the forehead. And we're connecting here to that third eye centre, that seat of intuition. So whenever you apply pressure to that part of the body, it really draws the mind inwards, brings it into a real sense of concentration. And it's very soothing if you've got a busy mind. So just take a couple of breaths there with that pressure being placed on the third eye, and just start to feel yourself, your awareness gathering inwards. Just starting to pay attention to your breath as you breathe through both of the nostrils. And then we're going to begin the practice by closing off the right nostril. So using either thumb or ring finger depending on what hand you're using. So we're going to close off the right and we take a nice long slow breath in through the left. And then I'd like you to pause at the top as you then close off your left nostril and open your right, and then a nice long slow breath out the right. Another little pause and then breathing in through the right. Pausing, closing off the right, slow breath out the left. Pausing, breathing in through the left. Hold, close off the left, opening and breathing out through the right. Breathing in through the right. Pausing, closing off the right and breathing out through the left. Hold, breathing through the left. Closing off the left and breathing out the right. And we're just going to stay with this practice, so you go at the pace of your breath. So we're going to take one more round. So let's breathe in through the left. Breathe out through the right. Breathe in through the right. And we finish by breathing out the left. And then just bringing that hand away from the face and then taking it into Chin Mudra to match the other hand, keeping the eyes closed. And I just want you to breathe gently through the nose. And just notice the difference in the quality of the breath. So I always find that I'm just a lot more aware of the breath. It also seems to move a little bit more easily, and it seems to move more equally between both of the nostrils. And bring some awareness to how the body is feeling. So noticing if you do feel a little bit more grounded, a little bit more centered. And then the awareness to the mind. So hopefully the mind feels the same. I'm going to draw the palms of the hands together. I'm going to generate some heat between the palms of the hands. And I'm placing those hands over the eyes, allowing the heat from the palms of your hands to be absorbed by the eye sockets. And then take a few deep breaths in through the nose. Sigh out the mouth. Releasing the hands from the face, looking up, opening the eyes, allowing your eyes to adjust to the light in the room. Okay, so there you go. So that's our Nadi Shodhana practice. So a lot of yogis actually do this every single day because it's so beneficial. So if you really enjoyed that practice, it's really nice to do. You could do it first thing in the morning, or you could do it when you get home from work. And as you saw here, you can just do it for a few minutes and it's really, really quite powerful. Okay, so I will see you guys tomorrow for day 2, so December 2nd. So I wish you a really, really peaceful day. Try not to get overwhelmed, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much. Namaste.